I'm pleased to be joined this week by the State Assemblyman representing the 20th District here in the City of Elizabeth, the City of Kenilworth, the City of Union, and the City of Roselle, and also the State Democratic Chairman, and that's Assemblyman Joe Crine. Assemblyman, welcome to the show.
Mayor, good to see you.
Good to see you. Everything well?
All is well. It's nice
You
to
survived all the, you still got a green tie on, so I want to know if you survived all the Irish High Holy Days.
Oh, and there were a lot of them, but yes, we had a lot of fun along the way and celebrated some heritage, and really it was a good time not only for the Irish, but for everybody in New Jersey.
Now before we get into what's going on in Trenton and your role as an Assemblyman, you're very active in Irish organizations throughout the state, especially in this area. I mean, your father helped start the Newark Parade, if I'm not correct, or was a major player in the Newark Parade.
Sure, it was a major player. My family's had an association through the tavern business through the years. My dad was a Grand Marshal in the 60s in Newark, which was a major event. I remember being a kid and marching literally in front of throngs of people. And that has kind of transcended the generations. He helped me. I had the privilege of being the first chairman of the Union County St. Patrick's Day Parade when a number of us got together. We had a very successful parade a couple weeks ago with a nice march down Morris Avenue in Union. So it's been a pride-filled type of thing. My family hails from Ireland. My dad's literally from first generation from County Roscommon. My mom's family is from Donegal. So you celebrate those things and you enjoy the spectacle of being Irish and the fun of it all as well.
So both your parents are first generation?
My dad is first, my mom is second.
Oh, really? Oh, good. And the parade in Union was a great parade, and last week was the parade in Newark. Now, you got to go to all these stops too, Assemblyman, or what?
Sure, we marched in 6 parades.
6?
6 parades this time out, but you know, the joy is that you watch, even though they're all the same, if you're not really into it, you watch the subtle differences in each, the difference in the crowds. But one thing that's consistent among them all, and that's a smile among the faces of the spectators.
Joe, a few weeks ago, Governor Corzine signed into law key pieces of the property tax reform. A couple of things happened. One is the Office of the Comptroller. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, it's good for the government.
Oh, sure, I think it is. And, you know, this property tax reform initiative, which has been such a hot item in Trenton, I know you've taken a leadership role in many of those issues, Mayor, has really led to some good things for the City of Elizabeth's residents. We will have increased property tax checks this year for those for over 90% of Elizabeth's property taxpayers. They'll see more money coming back into their pockets to help offset some of the difficulties that are with property taxes. But along that same message, so to speak, is the idea that state government needs to do a little bit better in cleaning up its own house. And as a result, one of the focuses of Governor Corzine's portion of the property tax reform is this idea of an Office of Comptroller, which will go in and look at now primarily state government entities, take a look and audit what's happening with those dollars. You know, the state government is a $33 billion budget. That's an awful lot of money. And while more than half of it goes back in terms of property tax relief and rebates and reform, the fact of the matter is that we need to do a better job in managing the rest, and the Office of Comptroller is going to help us do that.
Well, the interesting thing is about the $33 billion budget is a lot of people don't realize it is, when you say half of it, that's including the school money and everything throughout the state. I mean, that's a lot of money that goes back to the municipalities and school districts throughout the state.
People don't realize that actually 73 cents of every dollar that comes into Trenton, so to speak, goes back out in the form of relief or an aid. For example, just in the Department of Education alone, which has its own issues at one level or another. The reality is that it's an $11 billion budget, and over $8 billion of it goes back in terms of aid and relief and municipal and property tax relief for local school boards. You do the same thing when you add in this increased relief program, which we've just put in as part of the reform package, which is now over $2 billion. And of course, you had things like discretionary aid grants, and through the Office and the Department of Community Affairs, municipal aid grants, and some of the things that are there. What really comes back to is that a majority of the money that comes into the state goes back, and I don't think folks realize that.
You know, what's quite ironic is, you know, the papers make a big deal over the Christmas tree items, but these items are discretionary aid that are going to help a handicapped school. They're going to help someone with disabilities, or they're going to help a park somewhere in a community, or they're going to help English as a second language program. So these discretionary grants are solid areas of funding for municipalities who really needed to help their constituents in their cities.
Oh, there's no question. You know, one of the things that those grants do very well is they stand up for those that don't quite have a voice for themselves, and that's how you fight for them. I'm very proud of the work that I've done along with Senator Lesniak and Assemblyman Cohen in fighting for dollars for the 20th District. We fought for transportation dollars, whether it be on Route 1, whether it be on Morris Avenue or throughout the city. The Transit Village project, which you and I shared a press conference on along with others just a few weeks ago as well. We fight for those dollars every day, and we fight for them no matter whether it's in aid, for example, the good Trinitas Hospital, for example. Whether
They were on last week's show.
Oh, were they? And the reality is that as you look at the hospital situation, the Medicare situation in this state, hospitals are at a difficult time right now. And we fight for dollars to make sure that they have the finances they need to service the good people of Elizabeth and in the surrounding areas. This grant program and what it does is it allows legislators to fight for individual needs for their districts, and I frankly find that to be a source of pride that we're able to deliver.
One of the things that the governor signed was also a 22-member commission on municipal mergers. Do you think it goes anywhere? It's got to be a tough one.
It's a tough one. You know, New Jersey is very much about local rule. You know, home rule is a source of pride here, and you know the stats better than anybody. 566 municipalities, 618 school boards, of which a number don't even have a school in them. So the idea is, what the governor is saying is, look, we need to find ways to consolidate services and or consolidate municipalities if we have to. Some towns, there's a town in New Jersey that only has 18 people in it. And some would wonder whether or not we should really have that or not, Tavistock down in South Jersey. So when you look at those sort of things, you look at it through the eyes of common sense, but then you look at it through the Jersey tradition of home rule, and it becomes pretty difficult. I'd say this commission has a lot of work to do.
Well, Princeton and Princeton Borough actually put a question on the ballot at least 2 times, maybe 3 times, and all 3 times it was voted down by the voters to merge.
As we say, we want voters to have
and the mayor supported it both times in both
times,
cities. Yeah.
And still didn't go anywhere. And you know, another recent example is right over in the community near us in South Orange and Maplewood, which share a common element of the school boards. Columbia High School is shared by both in the common school district, yet had a question on the ballot as to whether or not they would even. All the question asked last November was, would you consider having a study commission look at the idea of whether we should merge? That's all they asked, and it went down almost 2-1.
So they didn't even form the commission to look at it.
Never even got off the ground.
The mandatory prison and forfeiture of pension and retirement benefits for public workers and officials convicted of corruption crimes, something that was debated for a long time, sends a message.
Yeah, sure, and it's an important message. You know, you don't have these issues in Elizabeth, and we're pretty fortunate in Union County, but throughout the state, there's been issues with the public trust that have needed an area of concern, and as a result, this idea of forfeiture, things that enhance the public's beliefs that government is doing all it can to be the best it can be, is really an important message to send, and I think this helps that.
And another issue is the school spending restrictions that not only works, we have a problem with here in the city of Elizabeth, but throughout the state. There's a lot of mayors and council who point to their school budgets who say, hey, they're the ones spending the tax dollars.
Well, in most municipalities, the school budget is over 50% of the actual budget that the property taxpayer pays. And as a result, when you look at that bill, what happens is folks know their mayor, as you know very well, and they like to talk to their mayor about their tax bill. But most times, and probably very similar to your own, the mayor controls 30% or less of the actual property tax bill. We vote on school budgets in April. But the fact of the matter is less than 10 or 15% of us, of those that are even registered, bother to vote. And as a result, the very few are making the decisions for the very many. And that really hurts us overall in a state comparison, and hurts us here in the 20th District and in Elizabeth. As a result, what we've got to do is try and look at ways that we can cap spending in order to control the type of growth that we have. And what we've done is we've initiated in Trenton, as part of that property tax reform plan, a 4% cap, which basically says that you can't increase your costs more than 4% a year with realistic considerations. As we both know, anybody who's filled up their car in the last few weeks knows that energy costs continue to rise in this state or pay their public service bill. It's no different for municipalities or for schools. So that's an exception under the cap. And anybody who's had to try and go out and buy health insurance for their family knows that the cost of health care has absolutely skyrocketed. So those realistic types of exceptions are there. And as you know, you can also go for a waiver if you need to for an extraordinary case. But it's a pretty good hard cap at 4%. And the idea is to continue to try and make New Jersey affordable so that folks can stay in the homes that they've worked so hard to have.